All right, title this World War II Part 10. This will be the Pacific Theater as well. We will continue with the Battle of the Coral Sea. Okay, this will actually stop Japan's planned invasion of Australia. Okay, we talked about the peak of Japan's power, and this will be the halt of that. Okay, May 7th, 8th, in 1942. This was the first time that we had an all-aircraft naval battle. Okay, so the ships are in the area, but it is basically all about the aircraft off of those aircraft carriers. So this will be the first time in history we have an all-aircraft naval battle. The ships never exchanged a shot. Both sides lost a carrier. We lost the USS Lexington. The Japanese lost a Shuhu. Both suffered heavy losses in planes. And after 2 days of fighting, the Japanese withdrew. Okay, they took off. Japan is now angered by the results of the war effort in the Pacific and plans to attack the U.S. mainland. Okay, so they're trying to find a way that they can attack the mainland, hoping that they could maybe divert our attention away from the Pacific and focus on home. Okay, now they do launch a few attacks, but mostly in Oregon and those places. But so I mean, you've never heard of them, so not that important. The Battle of the Coral Sea, you see here's the USS Lexington, was struck by 2 torpedoes. You see the guys jumping off the side. She was ready to it took her a long time to sink. So you can see the men going over the side. And those guys will be saved. That's a long jump, though. The Battle of Midway. This is the third turning point of the war. We talked about El Alamein in Africa. We've talked about D-Day in Europe. And now we'll talk about the Battle of Midway in the Pacific. The third turning point of World War II. This was June 6th June 3rd through 6th. Sorry. This was led by Admiral Nimitz. Here is Midway Island right here. I mean, this island is right in the middle, hence Midway. And you can see it's not very big, a couple airstrips, okay, but very valuable. We talked about the fueling points and things like that. That's why it's so valuable. Japanese force was planning on taking the island of Midway, and it was another naval battle in which planes did all the attacking. This was a turning point because the U.S. sank 4 Japanese carriers. They also sank a heavy cruiser, 3 destroyers, knocked down 275 planes, and about 4,800 men were lost by the Japanese. We lost a carrier as well, the USS Yorktown. We lost 150 planes and about 307 men. Okay, these 2 battles, Coral Sea and Midway, helped restore the balance of naval power in the Pacific. Before this, Japan had a huge advantage. Okay, and as I said, Admiral Nimitz right here was the fleet commander. So huge, huge battle and very important. The Solomon Island campaign was in Guadalcanal. Okay? This was a 4-month battle. Okay? Victory was finally secured in November. And here is the guy leading this, Admiral Bill Halsey, okay, also called Bull. And basically, this is going to start our island hopping campaign. Now, there are many, 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 many islands in this area. Okay, so here's Pearl Harbor. There's Midway. So it was a pretty brilliant strategy. Instead of going to every single island, we can hop around and cut off some islands, isolate some other ones. And that was the point. If we went to every single island, we're eventually, I mean, this is going to take forever. So what if we cut off some of these islands from Japan's support and just isolate them and then worry about them later? Okay, and that was the theory. That's called island hopping. The point is to get close enough so we can raid Japan. Okay? That's what we're trying to do. And the Solomon Island campaign will actually begin that. You can see some of the other major battles that we'll talk about. Leyte Gulf. Let's see what else we got here. Guadalcanal. So those are some of the ones that we'll talk about. Here's Battle of Coral Sea, Bougainville, and we're going to get to those in a second. Now, the first goal was to capture that Guadalcanal. Okay, 11,000 Marines landed. 2,200 Japanese fled into the jungle. It took months of fighting because, as we're going to find out, the Japanese have been there for a while and have been able to dig tunnels and caves and really fortify their positions. The Japanese would flee the island after about 4 months of fighting. Okay, and then we really start to select these islands. In 1943, we secured New Guinea, okay, at Bougainville. And very bloody victory here as well in Tarara. And the U.S. was making plans to advance back toward the Philippines. Okay, one route would be through the Central Pacific, the Marshall, Gilbert, and Mariana Islands. The other route would be through the north, New Guinea. Okay, we'll secure New Guinea. And the Marines landed on the beachhead of Bougainville and would be followed by the Army divisions. Okay, the beachhead is all that we needed. Okay, so we won't go too far into the interior. We'll just use the beachhead and jump off from there. Okay, in Tarara, we see some of the bloodiest fighting. Okay, the Americans lost 1,500 men, and the Japanese lose 4,800. So we're really starting to see how the Japanese fight, and that Bushido Code comes into surrender, or without surrendering, and you'll see how quickly their numbers pile up, because they will not surrender. 1944, the victory on Enwatatic Islands, and the point of this was to set up B-29 bases. These are our new bombers, the Super Fortress. I think, there we go, got a picture there. That way we can begin bombing Japan. We can get closer and closer. We also have a victory in Guam, and we retake the Philippines. MacArthur, General MacArthur, one of our most famous generals, fulfills his promise that he shall return. Okay, FDR actually wanted to bypass the islands, thought it'd be too bloody, and MacArthur basically argued for the freedom of the Filipinos. And we did all that work, if you remember, after the Spanish-American War, trying to secure the Philippines. Now we're just going to leave them behind. So MacArthur wins that. And so we do retake the Philippines. This is one of the most famous pictures from World War II. This is General MacArthur trudging through the surf to get back to the Philippines. Now the funny part is this was actually the second take of this picture, because the first picture, when he gets off one of these troop carriers, he actually falls into the water. So he goes back and changes, and they take the second picture. But this is one of the most important and most popular pictures from World War II. It shows MacArthur returning victoriously. The Battle of Leyte Gulf, we see over 160,000 Marines invade the island. 160,000 Marines invade the island. When the beach is secured, this is where we see this picture taken. Okay? This will also be known as the greatest naval battle in history. The greatest naval battle in history. 280 warships engaged in a 3-day battle in the waters off of the Philippines. They take off. We see kamikaze pilots used for the first time, and these are basically suicide pilots that their purpose is to crash their plane into one of our ships. So we see them used for the first time. The Battle of Luzon was an army battle. It was a long and bloody campaign, but the army was still able to declare a victory even though there was still some fighting taking place. So they basically isolated everything. And in fact, the fighting will continue until the end of the war in August of 1945. Now, behind the scenes, we got something else brewing. Okay? The Manhattan Project. This was a top secret project to develop the atomic bomb. This has been in the works for years. Okay? We were trying to beat the Germans to it. The Germans were trying to do this as well. They just could never figure it out, thank God. And this would obviously be a bomb more powerful than anything else in history. So we have the Manhattan Project. That was the secret code name going on in the background. Okay? In 1945, Manila falls, and Big Mac McCarthy returns to the Philippines to run the Philippines. In February, we have the Battle of Iwo Jima. This is the bloodiest battle in Marine history. The U.S. bombed the island for 74 days prior to the invasion. But as we didn't know, the Japanese had really dug in and have really fortified the island and went into caves and hidings and tunnels, and it was just really, our bombings didn't do much at all. Okay, so the Marines were only able to capture about 700 yards of the island initially, and after 3 days of fighting, so it was rough. 110,000 Americans were involved against 25,000 Japanese. Okay, and they literally fought to almost the very last man. Only 216 were taken as POWs. 216 were taken as POWs. The rest fought to the death. We suffered about 25,000 casualties. So you can see what we're talking about. In Okinawa, we're going to see some of the same results here. Okay? And this is all important as we're leading up to the decision to drop the bomb. April to June 1945, the island is about 350 miles from Japan. We wanted to get closer for the possible invasion. We sent in 180,000 American and British troops, and we faced about 100,000 Japanese. Again, they fought to the end. We faced over 2,000 kamikaze attacks. And as the battle ended, there were only 7,000 Japanese left. Just over that. Just over 7,000 Japanese were left. Okay, the Allies would suffer over 50,000 casualties. I mean, that's unbelievable, guys. Okinawa was the bloodiest campaign in the Pacific. And then along with that, the Japanese are telling the people of Okinawa that we are going to kill them and rape and destroy their children. And so many of the citizens of Okinawa, as we invaded, jumped off the cliffs. So thousands of people, mothers holding babies, would just jump. So a little bit brainwashed there as well. So just think of that. Okay, only 70, right around 7,200 men, Japanese men, were left from 100,000. That's just insane. Kamikaze is translated into divine wind. Okay, and we will see this really take hold, and it's going to become a deadly, deadly weapon. June of August, we began the bombing of Japan. We are now close enough to run regular bombing missions over Japan. Okay, Japan would be warned to surrender or face prompt and utter destruction. And we are going to stop there. We'll get to the atomic bomb in the next lecture. Stay classy, Vandalia. Oops.